When looking at the history of competitive Overwatch, very few heroes have been as polarizing as Sombra, the game's second post-launch character. Even before she was officially announced at BlizzCon 2016, Sombra had been teased and hinted at through a long drawn-out augmented reality game that left players' imaginations running wild. The community was thrown for loop after loop, trying to decipher codes in videos like this one in the Summer Games teaser.
Eat my dust! Eat my dust!
After this, everyone was expecting Sombra, but instead, we got Ana. And the hype for Sombra continued to grow, so much in fact, that bizarre theories started to spring up.
Now I know this sounds crazy, but Sombra might be Athena.
Sombra is either Alexandra or Alexandra's mother.
Oh my god. Sombra's Winston Tease is 100% confirmed.
One such theory emerged when game director Jeff Kaplan was asked about Sombra and a compass, which made him respond by saying, quote, "That sounds like deep CIA level stuff, way above our heads." Fans, being fans, took this literally and began to examine the sky in the Dorado map, leading to the discovery of the infamous Sky Code and Sky Song. Eventually, things led down a rabbit hole of loading screens and disappointment. Until finally, at BlizzCon, the hero was revealed with an animated short called Infiltration. Despite so much hype being built up around this hero, Blizzard has not done another ARG since. All subsequent hero releases have been much more basic and to the point, instead of being long and drawn out. But what about Sombra herself? Once Sombra was available to play, she was received fairly poorly. While her kit was really powerful, teams were unsure how to go about playing her. How would a utility-based DPS hero fare in a first-person shooter game? It was a mystery that was nearly as complex as the ARG itself, and would take time to solve.
Intel Overwatch Apex Season 1 Round Robin. Today's matchup: Mighty Storm, Lunatic High.
Lunatic High's Eska, one of the legendary players of Overwatch history, was the first player to use Sombra in a professional tournament, when his team was up 2-0 against Mighty Storm during Apex Season 1. And the results were less than spectacular.
This is not going too well for Eska yet.
At launch, Sombra was a very different hero than the one we see today. Her translocator ability had to be used within 15 seconds after deployment, forcing a get-in, get-out style of offense. Additionally, stealth caused her to move much faster, but only lasted 5 seconds. As a result, it was difficult to use Sombra in a similar method to Tracer or Genji in the dive meta that dominated Apex, which emphasized rapidly jumping onto a target and killing them as quickly as possible. With Sombra, players had to plan ahead and had a short window to strike before her abilities ran out. Needless to say, it took a while for teams to develop strategies that incorporated Sombra.
Oops. Well, he tried.
But there was one very important thing about her kit that would go on to define her role on a team. At the time, Sombra was able to gain ult charge off of her allies using hacked health packs. And since hacked health packs respawn 4 times faster, teams had an easy method of farming her EMP. Hacking a mega health pack means 250 HP of instant healing every 3.75 seconds. So by the time Apex Season 2 rolled around, Sombra was mainly used on defense and functioned as a second support, existing only to heal her team and look for massive EMPs. We saw this most often on assault maps, where there was often a mega health pack close to the point that a defending Sombra and her teammates could quickly run back to. Some maps that this was common on were Volskaya Point A, as well as Temple of Anubis B, because the mega health pack is literally just underneath the point. In the dive meta, almost every single hero had extremely good mobility, and could easily jump down to grab the health pack, heal up, and use their high mobility to get right back into the fight. In this clip, Meta Athena has just capped Point A thanks to a highlight reel 4K by Saya player. BK's stars swap Alarm onto the Sombra, and watch just how quickly he's able to build EMP thanks to his tanks farming the mega health pack. Just how much ultimate charge did Sombra get from players being healed up by hacked health packs? Alarm has 75 HP and 75% ultimate charge. When he translocates out to his hacked health pack, his ultimate charge goes from 75% to 86%. All that just for healing 75 HP. When Burner on the Diva heals up a few seconds later, Alarm has his EMP locked and loaded. When it comes to ultimates, few are as effective as EMP. It has a quick cast time, shuts down enemy abilities, and obliterates shields. It's also difficult to counter EMP. Either you stun Sombra during her animation, which is incredibly difficult, hide and use defensive ultimates after EMP is cast, or have your team play spread out enough that not everyone gets hit by it. While the latter probably sounds like the most optimal, on maps like Temple of Anubis, where teams have to funnel through a select path to get to the point, playing spread out can make you super vulnerable. Of course, there was the odd time when an attacking Sombra could completely take over a game. One of the first times we ever saw this was when Rascal and Kongdu Pantera took on Flash Lux. With sheer mechanical skill, Rascal dissected the triple tank team of Flash Lux on King's Row.
Yeah, this has been a masterful display of Sombra.
It's been the best Sombra play I've ever seen.
But for the most part, Sombra play through Apex was extremely limited. Just hack health packs, have tanks farm the health packs, get EMP, win the team fight, rinse and repeat. That is until February 27th, 2018, when big changes were made to Sombra's kit. She was no longer going to gain ultimate charge through health pack healing. To offset this, Blizzard decreased the spread on her primary weapon, resulting in a much needed damage buff. Additionally, Translocator's duration was increased by 5 seconds. Hack was now faster and could be applied to more abilities. This included Genji and Hanzo's wall climb, Pharah's hover jets, and even Lucio's boosts. The hack speed buff in particular was seen as being quite oppressive by the community and was revamped shortly after, going on a 2-second cooldown when interrupted by damage. This is because she often completed the hack faster than players could react to. While all this was going on, a new composition called Goats was infiltrating all tiers of Overwatch. The composition called for 3 tanks, 3 supports, and 0 DPS. This meant that Sombra had fallen out of favor. So while Sombra was much more of a DPS hero than her previous incarnation, there were still more changes yet to come. Changes that would forever shape Overwatch. July 24th, 2018. In what was an incredibly shocking change, Sombra received her biggest buffs to date that radically altered her playstyle yet again. Her invisibility and translocator now lasted indefinitely, meaning that Sombra players could now wait behind enemy lines for the perfect opportunity to pounce and bounce without needing to worry about her abilities being on a time limit. Developer comments stated, quote, "These changes allow Sombra to more easily play as an infiltrator and scout for her team, as well as give her time to pick and choose when to reveal herself to ambush her enemy." The community was split on the change at the time, with some claiming that it would make Sombra totally broken, as she could potentially remain invisible forever, and some thinking that Sombra would never be used again because all her abilities except her ult became unusable if she took just 5 damage. These changes happened right as Goats was gaining popularity and becoming the dominant meta. With Overwatch League Season 2 approaching, teams were experimenting with ways to incorporate Sombra within 3-3 and against it as a part of a multi-DPS comp. One of the first times we saw Sombra Goats straight up outplay an opponent was when the Seoul Dynasty faced off against the New York Excelsior in the Stage 1 playoffs. And with Michelle's signature diva being swapped for Sombra, Jonax Zenyatta was constantly under pressure from hacks and EMPs which reduced his health to just 50. Then, in Stage 3 of the Overwatch League, the Los Angeles Valiant, a team that had gone 0-7 in Stage 1, suddenly stopped the unstoppable force that was the Vancouver Titans, who held a 19-0 record in the regular season at the time of the match. We won't go further into detail here, but suffice to say that Vancouver were unable to counter the Valiant Sombra and Ana variation on Goats. During that same stage, more and more teams began to play Sombra. The Shanghai Dragons, running their own variation of Goats with Sombra as well as various DPS heavy comps, turned the entire meta on its head and dominated both the Titans and the Shock en route to their first ever stage playoff championship. Sombra had successfully infiltrated a team comp built on tanks and supports and had become a critical piece of the meta once again. For Stage 4, however, it was clear that Goats had become far too oppressive, and the game was becoming unenjoyable. The 2-2-2 roll-lock went into effect in the OWL, and the effects were devastating for Sombra. With Orisa becoming relevant in the meta, and the Clockwork Vendetta composition being improved upon to become Reaper Mei, there was no longer a place for Sombra in the close quarters combat that defined Stage 4. The situation only got worse during the OWL playoffs. As teams stacked shields upon shields with a frontline of Orisa and Sigma, Reaper and Doomfist became meta for their ability to go past shields and get back to their own team safely. Something Sombra could also theoretically do, but not as rapidly or devastatingly as either of these two heroes. Right now, there are some teams and players experimenting with running Sombra, but she looks to be solidly out of the meta for the foreseeable future, as she did not feature at the Gauntlet in Seoul or the Overwatch World Cup in Anaheim. Nevertheless, her kit remains one of the strongest in the game, and she still sees playtime every now and then. And that's where Sombra is today. It's amazing to think that one hero could undergo so many changes that affected how they are played, from a defensive 2CP support to a backline DPS assassin, taking D.Va's spot in a 3-3, and in the future, perhaps, to even greater and more annoying heights. But until then,
Apagando las luces.
thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on Sombra's long drawn out release? Which of the post-launch characters are your favorites? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, we'll see you next time.